Before we get into the stories, I'm excited to announce I have a new channel called Monster Trail Cams. Here's a quick trailer for my new channel. The link is below. Monster Trail Cams is your ticket to the unseen and supernatural. Sourced from a vast network of mystery hunters worldwide, our channel reveals a collection of strange creatures and supernatural events that will leave you on the edge of your seat. From shadowy figures lurking in dense forests to inexplicable entities prowling under the cloak of night, each chilling clip peels back another layer of the world's untold mysteries. We release new episodes several times a week. Okay, now let's get to the stories. I hardly tell anyone this because it still freaks me out. Whenever I try to, my eyes tear up and my nose runs like I've been pepper sprayed or something. It's crazy. A few years back, I lived in Death Valley, working for a company that picks up used grease from restaurants. I used this special vacuum to suck up the grease, liquid chunks and all, into a tank that I'd wheel out to my truck. Early one morning on my first stop, a Mexican restaurant, I cleaned their grease trap and went to wheel the container out to my truck. Doesn't smell great. Some of this grease is rancid and smells fishy. But as I'm putting the container in the truck, I am trying to latch the door and it's giving me trouble. I hear this clicking sound behind the truck like a big bug. Then I'm in this cloud of stench, but it's not the grease, it's more sulfuric rotten eggs. I hold my breath, figuring it must be a sewage leak or something, but it gets stronger. And when I turn around, I see the eyes first, laser red, fixed on me. This creature, how do I even describe this? It was like a huge bag of bones formed itself into a skeleton hellhorse. It had this wrinkled, leathery bat skin and wings, huge wings to match, which it stretched to full span in front of me, flapped a couple of times, then folded back onto its body. The eyes were sunken into its little skull. It was almost like its head was actually just a dark, hollow skull. It was like one of those prehistoric horse skeletons you see in a museum had come to life. I just froze, I stood there thinking, do I play dead? Do I run? What the hell is this, and am I going to set it off somehow? Then it started to move toward me, its head bobbing up and down, but crawling in a serpentine motion. I stepped back and just ran. Now, this was not my best decision. It was just wide open desert out there. I could hear it behind me in the sand. Well, okay, so now I'm just getting that burning feeling in my eyes and nose. So I was running, then tripped and half fell, half rolled in the sand. When I looked up, the creature was running into the desert, but away from me. In the distance, I could see a person on horseback, far off, like they were coming in from a sunset ride. I got up and I started waving my arms like a maniac. I'm like, hey, move, run! But they didn't seem to hear me, and the creature was closing in on them. Just as it looked like it was about to pounce, the horse kicks it so hard in the head that I can hear crack, bone cracking, and the thing just drops. The rider tries to circle back to approach the creature, but the horse is having none of it, right? The horse is freaking out, backing up. I haul ass back to my truck and I dial 911. Takes forever for someone to answer, and I blurt out where I am, and I sound insane, saying I think I've seen an alien or something. But before I can even finish, they hang up on me. I back up, then remember I never latched the back of the truck where the grease container is sitting. I get out and try to latch it, but it's still sort of stuck open. I decided I'm just going to leave the grease bin there behind the restaurant, come back for it later with another truck, or better yet, send someone else to do it. My heart is still pounding. I'm completely scared. I look into the desert, and sure enough, I still see the shadowy hump of the creature's body out there. I pull the grease container out and roll it to the back of the restaurant. As I'm about to get in my truck, one of the owners comes out and looks at me, sniffs the air that still smells like rotten eggs, and wipes his eyes. He looks out at the desert and shouts over his shoulder to someone in the kitchen, "Hey, Otro!" There's another one. And he says to me, looking serious, "You didn't see anything, right?" And I stare at him, and I start getting this burning sensation in my nose and eyes, and I say, "No, nothing." As I drive away, I pass a police van with barred windows, one they might use to transport prisoners coming toward the restaurant, along with a plain white cargo van behind it. One of the cops gives me a little two-finger peace wave and a nod. No blues on, just driving fast and quiet. I see them pull over at the restaurant where the owner is greeting them, gesturing excitedly toward the desert. So, get this. The next week, I get a personal check for $1,000 from the restaurant with a note thanking me for my services, but that from now on, they'd be cleaning up their own messes. I'm thinking, obviously, this is a regular occurrence, right? But I mean, who knew about it? The guy on horseback, the restaurant, the cop, all of them? Sometimes when I'm awake at night thinking about it, I can actually smell it. For weeks, I read the police blotter in our little local paper, and nothing. I want to go back there, take a look around, maybe find the guy on the horse. I wonder where that thing came from, and most of all, where they hid the body. I just got back to Buffalo, New York from San Francisco, and I've never been so happy to be home. I never thought anything creepy would happen in California. I mean, it's sunny and cheerful all the time, right? I had to go there for 3 nights for a conference, and I was glad to go since it's winter in New York. I was looking forward to some good weather, and I did get that. The days were fine, it was the nights that got crazy. Okay, so the first day I didn't do much. We had kind of a meetup in the hotel ballroom, which was set up as a bar. Maybe I drank a little too much, and I thought at first that might explain what happened later. See, I got back to my hotel room and sort of collapsed into bed. Between the flight across the country and one too many whiskey sours, I'd had enough for a while. I didn't even turn on the TV. I also forgot to turn my phone on sleep mode, which turned out to be a good thing. Sometime around 3 or 4 in the morning, I woke up. I felt like something was watching me. I knew I'd thrown the deadbolt and put that blocker thing on the door that they have now instead of chains. No one could have come in, and yet someone or something was there. I felt it, and then in the tiny bit of streetlight coming in through the curtains, I saw it standing at the end of my bed. I sat up in bed so fast that I hit my head on the headboard. It was this hunched-over, pale-skinned creature with dead black eyes that were too big for its head. "What do you want?" I said. It didn't answer, just made this creepy clicking noise. I don't know, like a really loud clock maybe, or just someone clicking their tongue, but loud. I was seriously creeped out and didn't know what to do. It started to inch forward, clicking the whole time. I didn't realize I was moving backwards until my back hit the wall. Then I heard barking, and it took me a minute to figure out what it was. I got this friend Josh, and he's part of the reason I always put my phone on sleep mode. He'll get drunk and call me in the middle of the night sometimes. I put his ringtone for barking. I don't know why, just because it's funny, I guess. All I could think was thank God for Josh, because the creature flinched when it heard the barking. I didn't answer the phone. I knew it would only ring 4 times before it went to voicemail. Luckily, when Josh is drunk, he'll call over and over again. When the barking started again, the creature left. I don't know how it got out of the room, it was just gone. Josh called again, and this time I picked up. I listened to him drunkenly ranting about his girlfriend not wanting to go to a bar with him or something. It was comforting, and I actually fell back asleep. The next morning I was sure it was a dream. It couldn't have been real, right? It was just too crazy. I went and did all the conference stuff and tried to forget about it. But when I got back to the room that night, I remembered again. What if it wasn't a dream? What if it came back? I put my phone next to me on the nightstand. If the thing showed up, I'd play the barking ringtone again. I didn't think it would, but it seemed like I'd been asleep for just a few seconds when I felt those creepy eyes on me again. It was clicking just like before, staring at me. I didn't bother to talk to it this time. I just grabbed the phone and put on that ringtone. It didn't move, just kept staring. I turned on the phone light and shined it right at its face. That was a mistake because it looked even worse in the light. The light reflected off those black eyes, and they looked even deader. And the skin, like you could almost see through it, red and blue veins. I didn't know whether to throw up, run, or scream. I fumbled my phone and dropped it. I grabbed the nearest thing, which was one of those laser pointers you use to point at stuff during presentations. I shined that in its eyes, and then it finally backed off. I moved toward it, shining that laser pointer and trying not to act scared. I got my phone with the other hand and played the dogs again. It clicked louder, but finally left. This time I knew it wasn't a dream. I went down to the hotel lobby and asked to change rooms, told them the neighbors were loud. They didn't argue. I thought that had to be the end of it. I had just one night left and I hoped it would be quiet. At 3 a.m, that thing woke me up again. I know I said that I thought it was over, but I also didn't because I slept in my clothes and put my packed bag right by the door. So, when the thing showed up, I was prepared. I jumped up, ran over the bed, and got to the door. The thing was right behind me, clicking, and I think it was gnashing its teeth too. I was so scared that I couldn't get the door open at first. I forgot I had that blocking thing over it, and it took me a few seconds to remember how to move it. That clicking was driving me nuts. I opened that door so fast that I almost fell down. I shoved my bag out, got out, and slammed the door behind me. I got a ride from my rideshare app, went straight to the airport, and changed to an earlier flight. I know it was the rake. I hope I never see anything like that again. I'm a spelunker living near the Catskill Mountains of New York. For those who aren't familiar with spelunking, it's basically cave exploring. This can be a dangerous hobby, and for those of us serious about it. So, we make sure to use the right equipment and always go with a group. Research is also important. There are countless reports of spelunkers who have died or disappeared in cave systems because they were ill-prepared and didn't know what they were getting into. I've been spelunking since I was a kid and I've seen weird things here and there, but I wanted to share this particular story that happened more recently. Most of what we see in the caves are signs of people living there, hopefully just temporarily, and junk left behind. Once my sister and I found a stray dog that we helped find its way out. A few weeks ago, when the weather was warm and dry, 4 friends and I decided to head to one of our favorite spelunking caves in the Catskills. I'm not going to mention the name of this cave since it was in the news a few years ago for a guy getting injured. He wasn't prepared and ended up falling and breaking his heel. But I'd been there a few times with these same friends, and we knew what we were getting into. We'd brought the basic gear and were setting up in a small, clear area not too far from the entrance, maybe 200 or 300 feet. Like I said, it was pretty dry and we had hot weather, so we were sure to pack a ton of water. There were smaller trees around us, but mainly pine trees growing on and around the rocky outcroppings near the cave entrance. I finished getting ready first and stood up to double-check that all of my gear, including my helmet, was on properly. We were chatting about what we should do later in the day, maybe find a brewery or just head home and order pizza. 2 of my 4 friends were visiting from out of state, so this was a sort of vacation for them. As the others started to stand and check themselves, I heard a snapping sound off to my left near the cave. I glanced back that way, assuming it was a smaller animal. In the woods, a lot of small animals can sound large, so I don't usually get worried unless I see something to worry about. I scanned the area, didn't see anything, and went back to chatting. Then the smell came. This smell was unlike anything I'd smelled before, like someone left a pile of beef rotting in a trash can for weeks. It was so bad I could practically taste it, and from the looks on my friends' faces, they could too. We all instinctively held our arms over our noses and immediately started looking around for the source. My initial thought was that we were about to find a body. But it also seemed odd that the smell came so suddenly. We'd been in the area for at least half an hour at this point, and if there was a rotting body nearby, we would have smelled it sooner. One friend broke off from the group, picked up a large stick and started poking and searching the foliage to the right, away from the cave. I was looking more carefully into the woods now, and as I turned around slowly, I saw something near the cave. At first, I thought it was a buck because of the antlers. Pretty big, an 8-point. And noticeable as it was about 200 feet away from us near the cave. I froze because something was off. In my experience, deer usually run, but this one didn't. One of my friends, Trisha, caught on quickly and froze too. The others noticed we were looking at something, and soon we were all staring at it. The deer, or what we had thought was a deer, unfolded suddenly and got a few feet taller, which gave me the sensation that I was hallucinating. The thing then shifted closer to the opening of the cave, and a second later we were hit with that horrible smell again. It was sunny, but with light coming through the trees, it looked like the body, on two legs by the way, had these spots of light coming through it, like there were holes in it or something. It moved a few feet closer, and the smell got so bad I actually gagged. Another guy and I grabbed big branches and started backing up. My friend Dave, the one who had been looking around in the bushes, asked, "What the hell is that thing?" Trisha grabbed her pack and started rushing backward toward the trail we'd come up. The rest of us broke out of our scared trances and did the same, scrambling back to the trail and then jogging down it. Dave was the last one out, and he kept looking back and hollering that he didn't see it, which was a relief but didn't stop the adrenaline rush. Within 10 minutes we reached where we'd parked the car and all piled in. It was a complete mess. We still had our gear on and we were all out of breath. Leighton was driving and gunning it back toward town. Once we cleared the deepest part of the woods, we started talking about what we'd seen and comparing. We were all on the same page. It had definitely been a creature with a buck's head, standing on two legs, and it looked like it was decaying. Trisha, who had been a little closer, said the eye sockets were empty. That same day when we hunkered down in a deli for lunch, everyone did some digging online, and the best we could come up with was that there was a Wendigo up there at the cave. I'm assuming it was just passing through since we'd been there before and hadn't seen it, and there weren't any reports of it up there. But that's a cave we won't be visiting again, not for a while or without protection. Petey was attacked 2 weeks ago by a hideous creature. I saw it with my own eyes and reported it to my town's animal control, but they're not doing anything about it. Petey is a rescued pit bull and is the sweetest baby. He would never be aggressive unless he thought someone was threatening me. And that's how he got himself into this mess. I live in Locust, North Carolina, and we have a lot of woods here. Even though I'm a woman in my 40s living alone, I was never afraid at night because Petey would always let me know if anything strange was going on anywhere near the house. I don't believe in those electric fence things, and I don't tie my animals up by their necks, so sometimes when he needed to go outside to do his business, I'd just let him out in the yard and stand by the door and watch him. This was never a problem for us. My property has a stretch of woods in the backyard that goes on for a ways, but Petey was well trained and he would always come right in when I whistled. So 2 weeks ago, when I was watching him from the screen door and I saw him go into the woods, I was really surprised when I whistled and he didn't come right back. I was only wearing my bedroom slippers at the time because I work from home, so I had to go back into the house and put on some shoes before I went after him. I buy him these special real meat treats that he loves, so I grabbed a few of those and put them in my pocket on the way out the door. I walked through the woods for maybe 5 minutes, calling his name and clapping my hands, and didn't see any sign of him, and I was really getting worried. So I stopped for a minute and listened. Maybe it was because of me walking through there, but it seemed to me that the forest was unnaturally still. No birds or anything. Even after I was quiet for a few minutes, they didn't start back up. It kind of got me a little wary. I went a little way further and called his name some more. All at once I saw something ahead of me in the brush. There was this creature that looked like a wolf, only bigger. We have coyotes around here, but no wolves, so I was squinting at it, trying to figure out if it was just a big dog. Coyotes aren't very big. It was kind of far away and down on all fours at that moment, so I had no reason to think it was anything supernatural. I've always been told don't act like you're prey if you see something in the woods, so I acted big, so to speak, and yelled at it, "Go on! Get out of here!" Unfortunately, I didn't scare it one bit. Instead, it turned and looked at me, dead on, locking eyes with me. The hair on the back of my neck rose when I saw that thing's face. It had the most sinister yellow eyes, glowing like a deer's eyes do in the headlights. Its face looked off for a regular dog or even a wolf too. The jaw was especially large and the ears seemed taller. But those eyes, man, that was the really freaky part. I couldn't look away. The beast made a low growling sound and my blood just froze in my veins. All those brave ideas about yelling so you don't look like prey just went out of my head in an instant. I was just paralyzed with fear. I could barely breathe, and I'm sure I was giving off some kind of fear scent that it was picking up on. The creature sniffed the air then, keeping its eyes on me but raising its muzzle to scent the air, and I then realized it could also probably smell those special dog treats. Talk about appearing as prey. Right then the thing was certainly smelling the meat in my pocket. My ears started ringing, and my heart was hammering like it was trying to pound right out of my chest. I just slowly backed up a step and then another one, not sure of what else to do. All at once it rose up on its hind legs. I couldn't believe my eyes. It stood up, crouched over a little, but up on 2 feet, and it must have been 7 feet tall. It roared just like a grizzly bear, not like a dog or a wolf, just this enraged roar, and leapt toward me. I screamed at the top of my lungs and ran, knowing this thing was going to kill me. I hadn't gone very far when all of a sudden I heard Petey barking, and I turned around to look. Petey came racing out of the woods and launched himself at the beast. I screamed, "No!" watching totally horrified as he clamped down on the creature's side. He hung there the way pit bulls will, just suspended halfway up the thing by the strength of his jaw, swinging. That monster just swiped at him, roaring, and I saw its claws scrape across my poor Petey's side. I know I sound like a coward, but I was no match for this creature. I turned and ran, whistling for Pete and hoping he would heed all his training and follow me. I ran all the way home and only looked back once I reached the door. Thank God Petey was right behind me, and we both jumped through the door, locked it, and 911. I said there was some really big wild animal in the woods behind my house, and that it tried to attack me, and that it got hold of my dog. Animal control came out, arriving in about a half hour. I had spent that whole time sobbing my eyes out, knowing that we had just narrowly escaped being killed. I saw one of the officers arrive and start to head out with that stick thing with the loop on the end, and I told him, "That ain't gonna do it, mister. You need a gun." He told me to wait in the house. They were gone about 15 or 20 minutes, which didn't seem like enough time at all, and they arrived back with basically no information. I remember wondering if they had just gone out looking for show and didn't really expect to find anything. They didn't find the creature, and the one officer insisted it was just another dog that had fought with him. Nothing I said could convince them it was a 7-foot-tall creature that was walking upright. It was not a dog. But the more I tried to explain myself, the more I realized I looked like a crazy woman. Trying to tell them about a monster amid my shaking and being unable to really get the words out clearly. Who knew what they thought of me? For many weeks after that, Petey and I didn't leave each other's side. I'm not sure who needed who more, but I'm guessing the need was pretty equal at that point. Let's just hope we never have to deal with that again.